The blue-skinned soldier named Krell lay trapped beneath the twisted wreckage of his scout vessel, each labored breath sending waves of agony through his thorax. 3 local rotations had passed since his ship malfunctioned and crashed on this uncharted terrestrial world. The emergency beacon flickered weakly, its power cells nearly depleted. Hope, like his life signs, was fading. Krell's species, the Valdorians, were known throughout the galaxy as fierce warriors. They had conquered 12 systems with methodical precision, their advanced technology and tactical discipline overwhelming all resistance. But here, alone on this primitive world designated only as TX-437 in Valdorian charts, Krell was reduced to what all sentient beings eventually become when stripped of their weapons and armor: vulnerable. The rain had stopped, but the forest floor remained muddy and cold. Night was approaching, bringing with it predators that had already circled his crash site with curious howls. Krell checked his translator implant, still functional, though without much purpose on an undeveloped world. His medical kit had been depleted after treating the worst of his injuries: a compound fracture in his lower limb and deep lacerations across his abdomen where his exoskeleton had cracked. Pain management was becoming increasingly difficult. Valdorian physiology prioritized combat efficiency over comfort. Pain was merely information to be processed and compartmentalized. But even Krell's military conditioning had limits, and those limits were rapidly approaching. A sound broke through the forest ambience, not the padding of predator feet or the rustle of wind through alien vegetation, but something mechanical. Krell's hand instinctively reached for his pulse rifle, now empty of charge and half buried in mud 2 meters away. Lights penetrated the forest canopy, bouncing wildly as the sound grew louder. Krell's translator picked up vocalizations, primitive but structured communication. His tactical training assessed the situation. Discovery by indigenous sentience likely meant either immediate death or capture for study. Neither option appealed to a Valdorian commander. The lights found him. Krell expected fear, aggression, or cold scientific curiosity, the typical reactions when species encountered one another for the first time. He did not expect what happened next. "Over here," called a voice translated roughly through his implant. "We've got a survivor." 3 bipedal figures approached cautiously but purposefully. They wore simple protective gear, nothing like Valdorian battle armor, and carried primitive medical equipment rather than weapons. Humans, Krell realized. The Valdorian Intelligence Corps had basic information on this species: technological but pre-interstellar, numerous but politically fragmented, physically unimpressive but surprisingly resilient. "Don't move," said the lead human, a male with facial hair. "We're here to help." Krell tried to respond but could only produce a gurgling sound as his translator struggled with his weakened voice. These humans should be running in terror or preparing to defend their territory. Instead, they were assessing. His injuries? The female human approached without hesitation and began scanning him with a handheld device. "Tom, get the portable hydraulic lift. His leg is trapped under that metal beam." "Is he, from space?" asked the youngest human, eyes wide with wonder rather than fear. "Focus, Jack," the female said firmly. "Alien or not, he needs medical attention. Those wounds are severe." What followed confused Krell more than any battle scenario he had ever encountered. The humans worked methodically to free him from the wreckage, improvising tools and techniques to accommodate his alien physiology. They communicated constantly, sharing observations and adjusting their approach based on his reactions. When the metal beam was finally lifted from his injured leg, Krell expected the humans to restrain him or call for military reinforcements. Instead, the female, whose name he learned was Lisa, administered some form of analgesic. The relief was immediate and profound. "Can you understand us?" Tom asked, noticing Krell's translator light blinking. Krell managed a weak nod. "We're taking you somewhere safe," Lisa explained. "Somewhere we can treat your injuries properly." As they carefully moved him onto a stretcher, Krell's tactical mind raced through scenarios. Was this an elaborate capture technique? A psychological warfare tactic? The concept of enemies providing Medical aid to injured combatants existed among Valdorians, but was reserved only for the highest-ranking officers who might provide valuable intelligence. Yet these humans hadn't even confirmed if he was dangerous. They hadn't secured his hands or disabled his translator. They were simply helping. The journey to their medical facility was jarring but efficient. Krell observed their primitive ground vehicle, their crude but functional medical equipment, their constant monitoring of his vital signs despite having no baseline for his species. At the facility, a small building hidden in dense forest, more humans waited. They had prepared a space with surprising ingenuity, adapting their equipment to accommodate his alien form. A human with more advanced medical knowledge began treating his wounds immediately. "Why?" Krell finally managed to ask through his translator. The humans exchanged glances. "Why what?" asked the doctor. "Why help enemy?" Tom frowned. "You're not our enemy. You're just someone who needs help." The concept was so alien to Krell that his translator struggled to process it. In Valdorian culture, all non-allied species were potential enemies. Resources spent on outsiders were resources wasted. "Your ship crashed," Lisa explained simply. "You were hurt. That's all that matters right now." As the humans worked to save his life, Krell experienced something unprecedented. Beyond the physical healing, something else was happening, a fundamental shift in perspective. The Valdorian Empire had classified humans as primitive, barely worth studying before the planned expansion into this sector. How terribly, catastrophically wrong they had been. These humans, with their limited technology and fragile bodies, possessed something the Valdorian military had never encountered: compassion that extended beyond tribal boundaries. They were saving his life not for strategic advantage or intelligence gathering, but simply because they could. As consciousness began to fade under their surprisingly effective sedatives, Krell realized he would need to completely revise his mission report. The Valdorian Empire would need to reconsider its expansion plans into human space. Not because humans were dangerous, but because they were dangerous in a way the Empire had never prepared for. They could make you question everything you believed.